We also look at specific sustainability themes. So we've got a report on carbon, we've got a report on waste. We're just about to start a review of healthy living, by way of example, to take a look at that, the whole of the Olympics through a health agenda. So we look at things in various different ways, and our scrutiny is very consistent and very thorough throughout the piece. So we take a complete view of what's going on across the various delivery bodies. We went to Beijing and learned an awful lot from Beijing. Now, actually, that's not true. I went to Beijing and everybody else stayed behind. But hey, you know, being the boss has to have some privileges, doesn't it, really? So coming now towards our 2009-10 annual review. So this is our comprehensive look at sustainability for London 2012. Oh, thank you, Colin. I got one of these little notes. Look, see people downstairs? So 10 minutes, it says here, yeah. I wonder if there is anybody downstairs, or am I talking to nobody? Somebody come upstairs and give me a wave. OK. Right, so we look up and down at governance. So how is sustainability being managed through the various organisations? We look at policy and performance, so we'll look at subjects like carbon, waste, etc. across the various organisations. There's a little piece in the report about the Commission and what we actually do. And as you can see from the stats at the side, that's a big piece of work. It takes many months to go through, talk to all the people, really scrutinise what's going on and come up with some understanding of the issues. So I'd like to spend the next 10 minutes, because it says here 10, just talking to you about the content of the report. You've got hard copies you can get from the organisers, and then obviously happy to take questions at the end. So here we are with our latest annual review. Looking overall at governance, yeah, it's a pretty good story. I'm convinced that the political leaders still remain committed to the sustainability agenda, because they've told me so. It's not as joined up as we would like it. There are some organisations kind of on the periphery of the main bodies that haven't been given the message. So people like broadcasters, people organising the Cultural Olympiad. So, for instance, the Olympic Broadcasting Service, they belong to the IOC. Nobody pays them money from the London Olympics. So there is no contractual relationship. There's no sustainable procurement to do. They're based in Spain. They do broadcasting services for Olympics all around the world. That's what they do. So they rock up into town and they do what they do, and it may not be the most sustainable of practice. Well, no, actually, it's not. But nobody's spoken to them. Nobody's communicated with them and given them the message. So there's a bit more to be done there, I think. I think the statement at the bottom is very important. We look every year to ask ourselves the question, are cost reductions actually watering down the published sustainability standards? So far, to date, no, they're not, but we'll carry on looking at that. We've seen some integration from the ODA of the Olympic Village, which I think has been very well done. But what we're not seeing is a coordinated programme to share the learning. We think the legacy of knowledge is just as important as physical legacy, and we're not actually seeing that being managed. And we are challenging certainly DCMS, Government Olympic Executive, to really take the lead on that, and the GLA, the Mayor's Office, to actually come up with some things that we can all learn. Because I think it would be a tragedy if we put on a great sustainable games and some great sustainable facilities, and as a result of that we've learned nothing and we change nothing. Preparation. The ODA, Olympic Delivery Authority, are doing a great job. They really are exemplary sustainable construction practitioners. We can all learn from it. And we have evidence to suggest that all the way down to the guys with the hard hats and the boots, nobody's really worked on a site like it in terms of the emphasis on sustainability. So that's brilliant. The ODA are starting to shed people now because they're pretty much at peak. They need to make sure that they actually retain the expertise, and also we suck the knowledge out of the minds of people before they leave, because once they've gone, they've gone. And the ODA has been great at actually being flexible. We made a lot of noise about PVC. We insisted, I took it all the way up to Tessa Jowl to say, look, we need to kind of try and create a new standard for PVC here. A specification was agreed at the government level. The ODA went out, tried to procure it, couldn't, went out and challenged the industry. To cut a long story short, as a result of what's been done, the world has a new, safer, more sustainable form of PVC. That's what procurement professionals in the public sector would call forward commitment. It's a damn good example of it. The sort of thing that you've heard from Colin about the size of the public sector spend leverage. We need to be doing more things like this. We need to learn from this example because it's really good. Staging the Games is the responsibility of LOCOG, London Organising Committee of the Olympic Games. As I say, they are effectively a private sector body. We were a bit sniffy about them last year, but they have improved. We've seen some good strategies for things like waste management, zero waste to landfill during games time for 7.9 million spectators, quite a challenge. We've seen some really good stuff on food, healthy, sustainable food coming through, so that's great. We're quite convinced that the leadership kind of get it and understand it, but we are not seeing management systems that support that. And we're challenging LOCOG on that. There were only 4 functional sustainability requirements, and there was something like 28 functions. Their directors didn't really understand what process was supposed to be being followed. And we're recommending a more target-driven environment for LOCOG because we think that's better and suits their culture in a much better way. So there are some areas of improvement in terms of the management systems in LOCOG. Oh, I've got another one, look. 5 minutes, people downstairs. And then you can all nip off. You could go off to the pub, actually, because nobody would notice. Legacy. I'm not so happy about legacy. I think more needs to be done. We've seen lots of kind of political statements about the Olympic Park will be a blueprint for sustainable living. And I'm starting to ask people, well, what does this blueprint mean then? What do you mean when you say a blueprint for sustainable living? And actually a blueprint for who? You know, for the people that live there, what about, well, not just people, what about all the other species? You know, what is this? Can't get an answer. So who's responsible for defining the blueprint then? Well, it's somebody else. Who's responsible for delivering it? Don't know. So more needs to be done in this area. Yes, the Olympic Park Legacy Company, the senior executives of the new company do get it and I think understand the need for sustainability. Will they really deliver on it? There's a great example. If you take a look at the information about the sailing venue in Weymouth, there's some stuff. I've written a little blog on the website and there's some stuff in the report there. It's a fantastic example of joined-up sustainability. But I won't tell you now because I've only got 5 minutes. Climate change. Some great work being done by the ODA, but a carbon footprinting exercise has been done for the Olympics, which suggests that of the 3.4 million tonnes of carbon that we have, 3.4 million tonnes of carbon, 70% of that is actually in the build, it's in construction, and we need to learn from that. At this moment in time, we tend to construct facilities for efficiency in the built environment. We don't necessarily look at the embodied impacts, and I think that's something that needs to be done and something that UK PLC can actually benefit from. So here's just a couple of geeky slides about the 67% that's actually embodied in construction. This is how it breaks down if you go further. Most of it's in metal. It's in steel and aluminium. There's some in concrete, but it's mostly in steel and aluminium. And this is an interesting example for me, the tale of two roofs. Here's the aquatic centre with 3,000 tonnes of steel making up its roof. Here's the velodrome with 100 tonnes of steel. They're both round about the same size of building. They're both buildings that people come in to watch sport. One's got a cycle track in, one's got some swimming pools. Yet how come they're so different? They will also both be BREEAM Excellent certified. So there's something wrong with BREEAM. Okay, we're not addressing this issue in the right way. So velodrome, fantastic, really cool example of a sustainable building. Aquatic centre, no, not really. Waste, some great waste management practice going on in the ODA, some very good practice in LOCOG, but the waste industry has failed London 2012. The idea was that the zero waste to landfill objective would actually stimulate development of organic waste facilities, say in East London. It hasn't happened. I don't think it's going to happen in time for the Games, which means LOCOG are going to have to put their waste on a truck and take it to Bedford, which is not great. Get off, he says. Oh, 2 minutes. Hey, I can nearly do this. Biodiversity. I think we've seen a fairly good story on biodiversity. Lots of new green park is going to be created. There's some very good joining up of the various biodiversity bodies involved. We are going to be doing a review of biodiversity a little bit later in the year to get into that subject in a little bit more detail.